Okay, I want to go over the step-by-step method of adding vectors together head to tail and then finding the resultant. So we have four vectors listed here. The first vector, 58 meters at 40 degrees northeast. So I'm going to be using a ruler and a protractor to do this. So obviously I can't go 58 meters on here. So what I'm going to do first off is establish a scale. So I'm going to let 1 centimeter equal 10 meters for the scale. This first vector, since it's at an angle, I have to take the protractor out, and I'm going to be starting at the origin here. On this particular graph paper, that's the starting point. So the way you line up the protractor is this is the origin of the protractor. So all the angles have to be measured there. It has an x-axis and a y-axis. So you want to line up the x and y axis to the origin that you're measuring your angle from. So now that I have this lined up as best as possible, this first angle is 40. So I go over here. I see 10, 20, 30. There's 40. So I make a little mark. Okay, move the protractor out of the way. And now, get that off there. Okay, so now I want to draw an arrow vector that is 58 meters. So that is, using centimeters, that would be 5.8 centimeters long. All right, so this is the centimeter side of the ruler. You can see it lists there, millimeters, that's the little divisions. So if I go up here, 5.8, okay, there's 5. The problem with this is my ruler is not lined up, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that my ruler lines up with the mark I made and the origin. Okay, so when I do that, I know that this is at the right angle. But how do I measure it? It can be a pain because I get it flipped over. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at 10, and I'm just going to count 5.8. So here's 10, 9, so I'm going to just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5 centimeters. 5.5, 6, 7, 8. There it is. I draw it in. Make an arrowhead to indicate the direction. This is 58 meters, and there is my angle, 40 degrees. Okay. Now my next vector is 80, and it's going west. All right. Well, if I lined up to the head, if I put my protractor there, to the head there, all right, that's going west, okay? It's going left. All right, so there's my little mark. It needs to be 8 centimeters long. So I take my ruler, start it at the head of the previous vector, line it up to the mark over here. Now I know it's going in the right direction. I'm going to start this one at 20, and I'm just going to count 8 this way, so that's going to get me to 12. Draw my vector in. Okay, so there's my vector. I'm going to put the arrowhead on. That represents 80 meters, and it's going west. All right, next, 50 meters south, so that's straight down. You can probably just take your ruler, just line it up at the head of the previous vector. So right there, and just line it up so it's going straight down. This needs to be 50, so that's going to be 5. So from 10, it's going to go down to 15. Okay, there I go, down to 15. Make my arrowhead, 50 meters south. This last one is at a 45-degree angle, and it's 35 meters long. So I have to take the protractor, and line it up with the head of this vector right there, okay? You can use the y-axis to line it up because this is going south. So there we go. All right, so the origin of the protractor is at the head of this vector, this previous vector. Now that's where I need to measure my angle from. All right, so this needs to be 45 degrees. So when I go over here, 45, there's 40. 45 is like right there. Okay. Take my ruler, line it up with that. So I'm going to start it at the head of the previous vector. I'm going to use start at 10. I'm going to line it up with the little mark right there. Okay, and now I need to draw it 3.5 centimeters long. So 1, 2, 3.5. Make my arrowhead. Put the label in. This is 45 degrees, and it is 35 meters. All right. Once I have all my vectors added head to tail, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to draw in the resultant. Now the resultant starts at the tail of the first and goes to the head of the last because the resultant does what all the other vectors do in one move. Okay? So let's start at 10, go right to the head of that last one. Okay, that looks pretty good. Draw it in. Use a different color, or if you're using the same color, you could use a dashed line to indicate that it's the resultant. Put an R in there. Now I need to measure this angle. So I get my protractor out, put it in there. Now to measure this angle, I have to get the ruler out, put it on top here, and see where it hits on this. So it looks like it's 47 degrees, right? So if I look at the ruler, if I kind of line it up with the resultant, 10, 20, 30, 40, 45, 46, 47 degrees. Right, so this is 47 degrees. So I would report my resultant as, and I got to measure the length of the resultant. So if I measure the length, it is 1.6 centimeters long. So that is 16 meters at 47 degrees, and this is pointing northwest. Okay, so that is how you add vectors together, head to tail, graphically, and determine the resultant.